Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today because, honestly, we are unpacking something truly fascinating. We're looking at a highly cinematic, incredibly detailed text that outlines a massive spiritual movement, one that literally claims to be aimed at altering the course of human history. We're diving straight into Chapter 7 of the Swedenborg Revelations, specifically focusing on the revelations of the heavenly realm. It is a wild, visually stunning ride, so let's get right into it.
Here is the source text we'll be drawing from today. Now, just to be super clear right up front, we are impartially analyzing the accounts exactly as they're laid out in this book. We aren't here to endorse or debate the spiritual validity of any of this. Instead, our goal is to just understand the highly esoteric, breathtakingly vivid narrative that the author constructs right here in Chapter 7. Honestly, it reads almost like an epic fantasy or a sci-fi blockbuster, but it's presented as a profound spiritual vision.
Now I want you to imagine something for a second. Imagine a reality where you can no longer just open your mouth and speak. How do you share an idea? How do you organize a movement? How do spirits communicate when spoken words, at least as we know them, no longer exist? This is the fundamental question the text answers first, basically setting the operational rules for this whole heavenly realm.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, Heavenly Communication, or the World of Representations.
The mechanics of how the author describes spirit communication are just incredibly unique. The text introduces this concept called representations. Basically, in this heavenly realm, communication relies entirely on these representations. Instead of spoken language, spirits use telepathic, highly symbolic images. Imagine looking up and seeing clouds suddenly morph into specific shapes, or literal giant letters appearing in the atmosphere. It's this purely visual, broadcasted form of telepathy where your thoughts literally become the landscape around you.
Let's walk through exactly how the source outlines this three-step process. Step 1, a spirit simply holds a really strong desire to communicate a message. Step 2, those internal thoughts begin to physically manifest in the spiritual environment as visual symbols. The text specifically uses the example of clouds shifting and changing shape. And then Step 3, actual words or vivid images crystallize directly in the sky for the intended recipient to see. It's kind of like having a gigantic telepathic billboard that only activates when a spirit needs to send a message.
Now, what's really interesting is the specific example the narrator provides to prove this concept. The narrator recounts watching this glowing red mass gather in the sky, which then deliberately transforms into readable red text, and the text essentially reads, "The sun rises in the eastern country." This isn't just a random message, right? It's a profound prophetic signal that basically sets the stage for the rest of the narrator's visionary journey. The communication system is actively steering him somewhere.
And that brings us to Section 2, the prophet's arrival and a golden carriage in the sky.
So this is where the narrative scale deliberately begins to escalate. The sky isn't just sending text messages anymore, it's literally delivering visitors. With the sky acting as this dynamic, magical canvas, who do you think drops in next? The text builds incredible anticipation here, pulling a major historical and biblical figure right into the narrator's immediate view.
According to the text, it is none other than the prophet Elijah. But he doesn't just, walk up. He arrives in an extraordinarily cinematic fashion. The source specifically describes Elijah descending in a brilliant, gleaming golden carriage. And if that wasn't epic enough, this golden carriage is being drawn through the sky by a mystical Pegasus. No way, right? The specific, vivid details here really serve to underscore the immense importance and authority of this visitation. And Elijah doesn't just stop by to say hello. He comes with a highly specific, weighty inquiry. He looks at the narrator and asks, "Are you willing to undertake the task of sending spiritual messages?" He is flat out inviting the narrator to partake in a massive new mission of spiritual communication. Elijah is essentially recruiting him for a job that will bridge this heavenly realm of representations with the physical world below.
All right, moving on to Section 3, the Heavenly Army, Cantare and Jesus Christ.
If you thought a golden carriage was grand, well, the text suddenly blows the doors off the narrative scale. The visionary looks past Elijah and suddenly witnesses a vast angelic army standing in strict military formation. And the text provides a very specific headcount here, approximately 3,000 angels. This number is totally crucial because it shifts the entire scene from a peaceful, heavenly gathering into a tactical, strategic mobilization.
And get this, these 3,000 angels are fully armed. The text vividly details their weaponry, noting that they are wielding swords made of precious materials, We're talking gold swords, silver swords, and breathtaking diamond swords. This imagery of jewel-encrusted weaponry creates a really profound juxtaposition. Like, yes, it's an army, but it is an army of ultimate purity, absolute light, and high spiritual authority.
The narrator observes this awe-inspiring sight and concludes, "It seems the heavenly forces commanded by Jesus are finally about to begin a massive undertaking." And this brilliantly illustrates the core thrust of Chapter 7. We aren't just passively observing heaven anymore. This is the revelation of a battle plan. A strategic, massive spiritual undertaking is actively being launched under the absolute highest of commands.
Alongside Jesus, the text introduces another supreme authority overseeing this cosmic event, El Cantare. The source describes El Cantare as a massive, noble, and radiantly golden presence who holds an overarching guiding authority over this entire mission. This figure essentially represents the ultimate spiritual anchor for the massive movement being mobilized by that 3,000-strong army.
Which leads us to Section 4, the Eastern Epicenter, and a mission from Japan. So where exactly is this immense army heading? Elijah's golden carriage takes the narrator on a rapid flight across the globe, flying past the Middle East and heading directly toward the East. So the crucial point here is the geographic and historical shift the text is establishing. Historically, as the narrator reflects, previous spiritual missions and epicenters were deeply rooted in the West and in Europe. But this new massive undertaking? It's deliberately breaking from history. It is centered entirely in the East, specifically Japan.
Upon seeing this final destination, the narrator has a profound realization, stating, "In this Eastern country, my work begins." The entire spectacular journey, from learning how to read red text in the sky, to meeting Elijah on a Pegasus, to witnessing that vast angelic army, it was all to bring him to this single point. Modern-day Japan is revealed as the epicenter, the ultimate launchpad for a massive spiritual shift intended to alter human history.
So what does this all mean? Well, this brings us to a really compelling final thought. Regardless of where you personally stand on the theology, the narrative scale here is just undeniable. How will claims of a 3,000-strong heavenly army launching a new spiritual mission from Japan influence modern history, global belief systems, or even the people who follow this text? It's an epic concept that bridges ancient prophetic imagery with modern geography. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the text today. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.